Jack Mason stepped off the transport ship and took his first breath of the artificial air on Centauri Prime. The gravity felt slightly off, as it always did on alien stations. He straightened his dark blue Diplomat uniform and looked up at the massive curved ceiling of the docking bay. Hundreds of ships from across the galaxy were parked in neat rows, their designs as varied as the species who built them. "First time at the Council, Ambassador?" asked Olivia Wright, his newly assigned assistant. Her voice was professional but friendly. "First time as the Ambassador," Jack replied. "But I've been here before, in a different role." Olivia nodded. She had read his file. Before becoming a diplomat, Jack had been a military strategist for the Human Alliance. Some people had been surprised when he was chosen to replace the previous ambassador after the incident that no one talked about anymore. They walked through the main hallway of the Galactic Council headquarters. Aliens of all shapes and sizes moved around them. Some had scales, others had fur. Some floated instead of walked. Some had too many eyes, others had none at all. Jack kept his face neutral, but he noticed how many of them stared at him and Olivia as they passed. "Humans," he heard one of them whisper with what sounded like disgust. Olivia leaned closer to Jack. "The Draconians have been spreading rumors again. They're saying humans shouldn't have a seat on the council at all." Jack wasn't surprised. The Draconians had been against humans joining the galactic community from the beginning. They were a proud warrior race with red scales and yellow eyes. They had been in space for thousands of years before humans figured out how to leave Earth. "Let them talk," Jack said. "We're here now, whether they like it or not." They reached the main chamber doors, where two guards checked their IDs. The guards were Meridians, a tall species with gray skin and 4 arms. They were known for their strict logic and perfect memory. "The session started 10 minutes ago, Human Ambassador," one guard said. "Then I'll make an entrance," Jack replied with a small smile. The massive doors slid open, and Jack walked into the council chamber. It was a huge round room, with hundreds of seats arranged in rising circles. In the center was a speaking platform surrounded by floating screens showing data and translations. Almost every seat was filled with a different alien species. All eyes turned to Jack as he walked down the center aisle. Whispers filled the room. Senior Counselor SciFy was just speaking about the trade routes near your territory, announced the council chair, a jellyfish-like being floating in a special tank. Jack looked up at the tall Draconian standing at the speaking platform. SciFy's yellow eyes narrowed as he looked down at Jack. "How kind of the human to finally join us," SciFy said. His voice was deep and carried a hint of threat. "I was just explaining why human ships should be restricted from using the Orion trade routes." Jack felt anger rise inside him, but kept his face calm. This was typical Draconian politics, attacking when they thought someone was weak. "I look forward to hearing your reasoning, Counselor," Jack said as he took his seat. Olivia sat beside him and quickly handed him a datapad with notes. After the session ended, Jack was approached by Kilara, an Elysian diplomat. The Elysians were known for their blue skin and peaceful ways. "Ambassador Mason," she said softly, "welcome to the council. Not everyone here shares SciFy's views." "I'm glad to hear it," Jack replied. As they talked, Olivia slipped a small note into Jack's hand. He read it when Kilara wasn't looking. "Urgent news from Colony Epsilon 9. Under attack. No response from Council security forces." Jack's jaw tightened. He had been on the job less than a day, and already his fears were coming true. Something was very wrong in the Galactic Council, and humans were paying the price. Jack Mason sat in his small office at the Human Embassy section of the Galactic Council building. 3 weeks had passed since his arrival, and things were not getting better. On his desk, reports from 5 different human colonies showed the same pattern: mysterious attacks, missing people, and no help from the Council security forces. Olivia entered the room with a tray of coffee. Real coffee from Earth, a luxury out here among the stars. "You look tired," she said, placing a cup on his desk. "I am tired," Jack replied, tired of being ignored by the council. Jack had spent every day trying to get the council to acknowledge the attacks on human colonies. Each time, Sethvar and his allies would find a way to dismiss the evidence or change the subject. I might have found someone who can help, Olivia said. The Elysian diplomat, Kilara. She wants to meet you privately. Jack raised an eyebrow. The Elysians were known for staying neutral in council politics. If Kilara wanted to meet, it must be important. Later that day, Jack walked through the garden level of the council building. It was designed to have plants from hundreds of worlds growing together. He found Kilara waiting by a small pond with glowing blue fish. Ambassador Mason, she said, her voice musical and soft. Thank you for coming. You can call me Jack, he replied. What's this about? Kilara looked around to make sure no one was listening. There are things happening in the council that disturb many of us. Not just the attacks on your colonies, but patterns. What kind of patterns? Jack asked. Many small species have lost territories recently. Colonies that go dark. Ships that disappear. She paused. And always, the council investigation finds nothing wrong. Jack felt a chill. And you think these are connected to what's happening to human colonies? I cannot say for certain, but I can help you navigate the council politics. In return, perhaps your direct human approach can push for answers where my people cannot. It was an alliance Jack hadn't expected, but one he needed. Together, they worked out a plan for the next council session. The next day, the main chamber was filled when Jack took the speaking platform. He had requested time to address the council about trade routes, a boring topic that ensured most delegates would attend without suspicion. Honored delegates, Jack began. I come to speak about security along trade routes. Sethvar looked bored already. That was good. Specifically, Jack continued, I wish to ask why Council security forces failed to respond to distress calls from the human mining operation on Taurus 5. The chamber suddenly grew quiet. This was not about trade routes after all. According to our logs, Jack said, showing data on the big screens, Council security ships were just 30 minutes away when the attack happened. They received the distress call, but did not respond. Sethvar stood up. This is not the topic you requested to speak about. The council chair, floating in its tank, made a sound like bubbles popping. Allow the human to finish. Jack showed more data on the screens. This is not the first time. Here are 7 similar incidents in the past year, all involving human settlements. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Some delegates leaned forward with interest. Others looked uncomfortable. I formally request a full investigation into why Council security forces are failing to protect human settlements, Jack said. Sethvar's yellow eyes narrowed to slits. The human speaks of isolated incidents as if they were connected. Perhaps if humans followed proper colony registration protocols, security forces would know where to find them. Several delegates nodded in agreement. After the session, a small green alien with large eyes approached Jack. Brave speech, human. I am Delegate Zen from the Paraxis system. My people have experienced similar negligence. Jack exchanged looks with Olivia. Perhaps we should talk more, Delegate Zen. Later, in Jack's office, Olivia handed him a secure tablet. Captain Adam Cole just sent this from the U.S. horizon. They found something near the Epsilon 9 colony. Jack looked at the images and felt his blood run cold. The wreckage of ships that didn't match any known syndicate design. They were draconian military vessels. We need more evidence, Jack said. And we need allies on the council. Olivia nodded. Kilara has arranged meetings with 4 more delegates tomorrow. The game was getting more dangerous, but Jack finally had a move to make. The emergency alert woke Jack at 3 in the morning, station time. He grabbed his comm device and saw the message from Olivia. Proxima B colony has gone silent. All communications down. Proxima B was one of the largest human settlements outside the solar system, home to over 20,000 people. Jack felt sick. Within an hour, he was in an emergency meeting with his staff at the human embassy. Olivia had dark circles under her eyes as she showed the last transmissions from Proxima b. The colony reported strange ships in orbit, she explained. Then all communications stopped. Do we have any ships nearby? Jack asked. The U.S. Horizon can be there in 6 hours, said Paul Harris, Jack's military advisor. Jack nodded. Tell Captain Cole to proceed with caution. I want evidence this time, not just bodies. He turned to Olivia. Call for an emergency council session. Now. It took 4 hours to get the council together. Many delegates looked annoyed at being woken up, but Jack didn't care. He stood at the speaking platform, his face hard as stone. Proxima b, one of our largest colonies, has gone silent, he announced. Based on the pattern of previous attacks, we have reason to believe this is not an accident. Seth Vard yawned dramatically. Perhaps their communication systems failed. It happens to lesser technologies. 20,000 people don't just disappear because of a broken radio, Jack said, his voice rising. I demand the council send a joint investigation team immediately. The Meridian delegate, a four-armed being named Silvex, spoke up. Logic suggests we should investigate. The pattern of lost colonies is troubling. More delegates voiced support. Jack had been building allies over the past weeks, and it was paying off. But Seth Var wasn't done. If the humans are so concerned, let them investigate themselves, the Draconian said. Why should council resources be wasted? After 2 hours of debate, the council voted to send only a small fact-finding mission that would take days to organize. Jack left the chamber furious. Back at the embassy, he received a secure transmission from Captain Cole of the U.S. Horizon. Ambassador, we've reached Proxima b. Cole's face was grim on the screen. The colony is. It's bad, sir. Most buildings are intact, but we found no survivors. There's evidence of some kind of biological agent. My science officer says it was designed specifically to target humans. Jack clenched his fists. Any sign of the attackers? We found debris from ships, Cole replied. And, sir, some of it matches known syndicate designs. But there's something else. We found this. The captain held up a small device to the camera. It had the unmistakable markings of draconian military technology. Document everything, Jack ordered. And Captain, stay safe. They might come back. After the call ended, Jack sat in silence for a long moment. Then he called Kilara. The Elysian met him in a quiet corner of the garden level. When Jack showed her the images from Proxima b, her blue skin paled to almost white. This goes beyond politics, she whispered. This is extinction. I need to know what the syndicate is, Jack said. The council records say almost nothing. Kilara looked around nervously. The syndicate is not spoken of openly. They are a shadow organization, operating outside council law. Pirates, mercenaries, outcasts from many species. She paused. But they don't have the technology or resources for an attack of this scale. Someone must be helping them. Someone like the Draconians, Jack said. That is a dangerous accusation, Kilara warned. But not impossible. As they talked, Olivia approached quickly. Jack, we just received word. 3 more human colonies have reported strange ships in their systems. Jack felt cold all over. This wasn't random attacks anymore. This was coordinated. This was war. Get me transport back to Earth, he said. I need to speak with President Daniels directly. Kilara touched his arm gently. What will you do? Jack looked at her, his eyes hard. What no human has been willing to do yet. Fight back. The Earth skyline looked strange to Jack after months on Centauri Prime. The tall buildings of Washington, D.C. seemed both familiar and foreign as his transport ship landed at the diplomatic port. President Greg Daniels was waiting for him. A tall man with gray hair and stern eyes, he had led the Human Alliance through its first decade of galactic politics. Walk with me, the president said instead of a greeting. They moved through a secure garden at the Alliance headquarters. Guards kept a respectful distance, but Jack knew they were watching for any threat. "I've read your reports," President Daniels said. "And I've seen the evidence from Proxima B, 20,000 dead. No survivors." "It wasn't just an attack," Jack replied. "It was a test. The biological agent was designed specifically to kill humans, but leave the colony intact." The president stopped walking. "You're saying they want our colonies, but not our people." "Yes, and I believe the Draconians are behind it, working through this syndicate group this cover." Daniels rubbed his face, suddenly looking tired. "The council? Useless," Jack said. "They debate while we die. Some members want to help, but Sith Var and his allies block any real action." They reached a secure room where military officers waited around a large table. Maps of human colonies glowed on screens around the room. Many showed red warning symbols. "Ambassador Mason," said Admiral Karen Foster, the highest-ranking officer in the Human Alliance fleet, "your evidence from Proxima B matches what we found at 2 other colonies. How many ships can we deploy?" Jack asked. "Not enough," the Admiral admitted. "We're stretched thin protecting the remaining colonies." President Daniels sat heavily in a chair. "We have 3 options as I see it. First, we withdraw from all outer colonies, bringing our people back to the core systems where we can protect them." "That's surrender," Jack said, "and it won't stop them from coming for Earth eventually." "Second," Daniels continued, "we continue as we are, trying to work through the council while our people die." The room was silent. Everyone knew that wasn't a real option. "Third," Jack asked, though he suspected he knew the answer. "We fight back. Directly. Not just defensive actions, but strikes against the Syndicate. Maybe even against the Draconians if we can prove their involvement." Admiral Foster leaned forward. "That would violate at least 6 council treaties." "Treaties that aren't being honored anyway," Jack pointed out. For 3 hours, they argued about what to do. Some wanted caution. Others wanted immediate military action. In the end, President Daniels made his decision. "Ambassador Mason, you will return to the council with new instructions," he said. "Admiral Foster will deploy our ships to protect our colonies, but also to gather more evidence. If the Draconians are behind this, I want proof that even the council can't ignore." Jack nodded. "And if I get that proof?" The president's eyes were cold. "Then you have my authority to do whatever is necessary to protect humanity." 2 days later, Jack was back on Centauri Prime. Olivia met him at the landing pad with urgent news. "While you were gone, I got access to some restricted council records," she said as they walked quickly to the embassy. Kilara helped. "We found something big." In Jack's office, Olivia showed him the files. "The Draconians have been supplying advanced weapons to several council species, the same ones who always vote with them." "Bribes," Jack said. "Yes, but there's more." Olivia pulled up another file. "Look at these shipping manifests. The Draconians have been moving huge amounts of military supplies to bases near the border of human space." Jack studied the data. "They're preparing for something big." "War," Olivia said simply. Jack's comm device chimed with a message from Captain Cole. "Third Syndicate ship destroyed near New Montana colony. Recovered data confirms biological weapons and Draconian involvement. Sending evidence now." Jack looked at Olivia. "I need to see Kilara immediately, and then I need to request an emergency council session." "What are you going to do?" Olivia asked. Jack's face was grim. "What I was sent here to do, change the game." The main council chamber was filled beyond capacity. Word had spread that the human ambassador had called for an emergency session with evidence of galactic importance. Even species that normally ignored council politics had sent representatives. Jack stood calmly at the center of the chamber. Olivia sat nearby, ready with their evidence. Kilara had taken a seat close to the speaking platform, a silent ally among potential enemies. "The Council recognizes Ambassador Mason of the Human Alliance, announced the chair from its floating tank. "You may present your evidence." Jack looked around the room slowly, making eye contact with as many delegates as possible. "For months, I have come before this council reporting attacks on human colonies. For months, I have been told there is no pattern, no proof of coordinated action." He tapped his control pad, and images appeared on the large screens around the chamber. The destroyed colony at Proxima B. The bodies of thousands of humans. 20,000 civilians, Jack said, his voice hard. Dead from a biological weapon specifically designed to target human DNA. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Jack showed more images. Colony after colony, all with the same pattern of destruction. But who would do this? Jack continued. The council suggested it was the work of the Syndicate, a group of criminals operating outside council space. Seth Var shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Jack noticed and felt a grim satisfaction. Captain Adam Cole of the U.S. Horizon engaged and destroyed 3 Syndicate vessels as they attempted to deploy biological weapons near the human colony of New Montana. The screens now showed the wreckage of enemy ships. Analysis of these vessels revealed something interesting. Close-up images appeared showing pieces of technology with draconian military markings. Lies. Seth Var stood up, his scales darkening with anger. The human has falsified this evidence. The evidence has been verified by 3 independent council technicians, Jack replied calmly, including representatives from the Meridians and Elysians. The Meridian delegate, Silvex, stood up. "I confirm this. The evidence shows draconian military technology." The chamber erupted in shouts and arguments. The chair had to sound the alarm 3 times to restore order. "Even if this evidence is real," Seth Var said once it was quiet, "it proves nothing. The Syndicate is known to steal technology from many species." Jack smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. "I thought you might say that." He nodded to Olivia, who activated the next set of files. "These are shipping records from draconian military bases, records the Council was never meant to see." The records showed massive shipments of weapons and supplies moving from draconian space to known Syndicate territories. "Spying is against Council law," Seth Var shouted. "So does genocide," Jack replied coldly. For the next hour, Jack presented more evidence. Financial records showing draconian payments to Syndicate leaders. Communications between draconian military officials discussing the human problem. Plans for attacks on 3 more human colonies. When he finished, the chamber was silent. Seth Var and his allies looked trapped. The chair spoke first. "This evidence is disturbing. The Council will need time to verify all of it and decide on a proper response." "Time." Jack's voice echoed through the chamber. "While you take time, more human colonies will die. The Council has failed in its most basic duty, to protect its members." "What would you have us do?" asked a delegate from a small insect-like species. "The Council moves slowly by design. Investigations, committees, votes." Jack looked around the room. This was the moment. Everything he had worked for. He took a deep breath. "For too long, we have extended our hand in peace only to be met with deception and violence," he said, his voice rising. "While you debate, our people die. The human alliance will no longer stand idle." He paused, looking directly at Seth Var. "It's time for war, not against the Council, but against those who have manipulated it, against the Draconians and their Syndicate puppets who believe they can wipe out humanity while you all watch and do nothing." The chamber exploded into chaos. Some delegates stood and shouted. Others rushed for the exits. A few sat in shocked silence. Through it all, Jack stood firm. He caught Kilora's eye. She gave him a small nod of respect. The first part of his plan was complete. Now came the hard part. The private meeting room in the human embassy was packed with alien delegates. Some Jack recognized as longtime allies. Others had never spoken to him before today. All looked nervous to be there. 3 hours had passed since Jack's declaration in the council chamber. News had spread quickly throughout Centauri Prime. Some called it madness. Others called it bravery. "You've taken a great risk, Ambassador," said Zin, the small green delegate from the Paraxis system. "The Draconians are powerful. They have many allies." "And many enemies," Jack replied. "That's why you're all here, isn't it?" The room grew quiet. These delegates represented 15 different species, all with their own reasons to fear or hate the Draconians. "What exactly are you proposing?" asked a delegate with purple fur and 6 eyes. "That we all declare war on the Draconians. That would split the Council in half." "Not war against all Draconians," Jack explained. "Only against those who have been working with the Syndicate. Only against those who have been planning genocide." Kilara stepped forward. The blue-skinned Elysian had become Jack's strongest ally. Many on the Council already believe the evidence. They just fear acting on it. "Fear is the Draconians' greatest weapon," Jack said. "For too long, they've used it to control the Council. But together, we can stand against them." The delegates talked for hours. Some wanted action. Others wanted more proof. In the end, 9 species agreed to support the humans. The others wanted to wait and see what the Council would do officially. As the delegates filed out, Olivia entered with an urgent message. "Captain Cole reports the U.S. Horizon has engaged another Syndicate vessel. They captured it mostly intact this time." Jack felt a surge of hope. "Any prisoners?" "3, Olivia confirmed. "And they're talking. They've confirmed the Draconians have been directing the attacks." "That's the final piece we needed," Jack said. "Get the recording to our allies on the Council immediately." After Olivia left, Kilara approached Jack privately. Her usually calm face looked worried. "Sethvar has called for an emergency vote," she said quietly. "He wants the Council to condemn human aggression and impose sanctions on your people." Jack wasn't surprised. "When?" "Tomorrow. He's rushing it through before all the evidence can be examined." Kilara hesitated. "There's something else. Something I've learned from my contacts in Draconian space." Jack waited, sensing her fear. "The Syndicate is not the true threat," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "They are merely puppets. The real orchestrators of the anti-human campaign are a faction within the Draconian High Command. They call themselves the Pure Scale Society." "Why?" Jack asked. "Why target humans specifically?" "Fear," Kilara replied. "Not of what humans are, but of what you might become. Your species advances so quickly. In just a few centuries, you've gone from primitive technology to standing among the stars. The Pure Scales believe that in another century, humans will surpass Draconians. They want to stop that before it happens." Jack absorbed this information slowly. It made a terrible kind of sense. "Can you prove any of this?" he asked. Kilara shook her head. "Not yet, but I'm working on it." When she left, Jack contacted President Daniels with a secure transmission. The president listened gravely to Jack's update. "You've done well," Daniels said. "But if Sethvar succeeds in his vote, we could lose what little standing we have left in the Council." "I know," Jack agreed. "That's why we need to move first. The evidence from Captain Cole gives us the justification we need." The president nodded. "Admiral Foster has our fleet ready. Just say the word." Jack thought of the destroyed colonies, the thousands of dead humans. "The word is given, sir. Operation Counterstrike begins now." As the transmission ended, Jack felt the weight of his decision. Tomorrow would change everything, for better or worse. There would be no going back. Jack barely slept that night. The weight of his decision kept him awake as he watched the secure feeds from Admiral Foster's fleet. Human warships were moving into position near known Syndicate bases. The operation had begun. "First strikes successful," Olivia reported as she entered Jack's office early the next morning. Admiral Foster reports 3 Syndicate bases destroyed with minimal casualties. They evacuated most of the non-combatants before attacking. "What about the Draconian targets?" Jack asked. No strikes on those yet, Olivia replied. The president wants to see how the council reacts first. Jack nodded. Direct attacks on draconian military assets would be a major escalation. They needed to be careful. His comm device chimed with an urgent message. It was Kilara. Seth Farr's vote has been moved up. The Elysian's voice was tense. It's happening in 1 hour. He knows about your military actions and is using them as proof that humans are dangerous. We'll be ready, Jack promised. When Jack entered the council chamber, the atmosphere was electric. Seth Farr stood at the speaking platform, his scales nearly black with anger. The humans have proven themselves too dangerous to have a place among civilized species, the Draconian was saying. Their unprovoked attacks on syndicate territories are a violation of council law. Jack walked calmly to his seat. Many delegates watched him with fear or curiosity. Others refused to meet his eyes. The chair recognizes Ambassador Mason, announced the council chair. You may speak before the vote. Jack took the platform, facing Seth Farr directly. The Human Alliance has conducted precision strikes against syndicate bases that were preparing biological weapons for use against our colonies, he stated. We targeted only military facilities, evacuated civilians where possible, and caused minimal loss of life. He activated the main screens, showing footage from the human attacks. They displayed human soldiers helping alien children and elderly to safety before targeting weapons facilities. This is not war for the sake of war, Jack continued. This is self-defense, defense that the council failed to provide. Seth Farr sneered. Pretty words to hide acts of aggression. Speaking of aggression, Jack replied, I have new evidence to present. This wasn't part of the plan, but Jack had learned to adapt. He nodded to Olivia, who transmitted new files to the council system. These are recordings from syndicate prisoners captured yesterday, Jack explained. They identify their draconian handlers by name. The recording played. 3 different syndicate members, each from a different species, all naming the same draconian military officials who had ordered the attacks on human colonies. Seth Farr's face showed shock before he could hide it. These recordings could be faked. They have been verified as authentic by council security experts, Jack replied. The chamber erupted in shouts and arguments. Jack used the moment to signal to his allies among the delegates. One by one, they stood. The Meridian Collective requests that Councillor Seth Farr step down pending investigation, announced Silvex. The Elysian Harmony supports this request, Kilara added. 7 more species joined the call. The council chair looked overwhelmed. This is unprecedented, it bubbled from its tank. So is genocide, Jack replied. After a frantic discussion among the senior council members, a decision was made. Seth Farr would be temporarily removed from his position while the evidence was investigated. The vote on sanctions against humanity would be delayed. It was a partial victory, but Jack knew the fight was far from over. The Pure Scale Society would not give up easily. As the session ended, a young Draconian aide approached Jack. Ambassador, not all Draconians support Seth Farr or the Pure Scales, he said quietly. Many of us want peace. Jack studied the aide carefully. Do you have proof of that? Yes, the aide replied. And information about their next planned attack. May we speak privately? Jack exchanged glances with Olivia. This could be a trap, or it could be their best chance to end the conflict before it became a full-scale war. My office, 1 hour, Jack decided. As he walked away, he received a message from Admiral Foster. Joint Fleet assembled. 12 species have contributed ships, awaiting your orders. The pieces were falling into place. Now Jack had to decide his next move very carefully. 1 month later, Jack stood on the observation deck of the new Joint Council Human Headquarters. Through the large window, he could see ships from 24 different species moving in coordinated patterns. The Joint Fleet had been his greatest achievement yet. The young Draconian aide, whose name was Rezix, had provided them with detailed information about the Pure Scale Society. His data had led to successful raids on 3 secret bases where more biological weapons were being prepared. Each raid had saved countless lives and provided more evidence of the conspiracy. Most importantly, the information had divided the Draconians. Many had been shocked to learn what their leaders had planned. Civil unrest had forced the Draconian government to publicly condemn the Pure Scale Society and agree to joint operations to dismantle the syndicate. "Quite a view," said Kilara as she joined Jack by the window. "A month ago, I wouldn't have believed this possible." "Nor would I," Jack admitted. "I expected more war, not more cooperation." "Your threat of war accomplished what years of peace talks couldn't," Kilara observed. "You forced the council to act." A small smile crossed Jack's face. "Sometimes you have to be willing to fight to avoid a fight." The door behind them opened, and Olivia entered with a datapad. The final vote just came in. The council has approved the new mutual defense protocol by a large margin. Any attack on council member colonies will now trigger an automatic joint response. "And the representation reforms?" Jack asked. "Also approved," Olivia replied. "Smaller species will now have a greater voice in council decisions. The Draconians and other large powers can no longer control everything." It had been a month of intense diplomacy, military operations, and reform. The syndicate had been largely dismantled. The Pure Scale Society had been exposed and its leaders arrested. HFY and his closest allies were facing trial for conspiracy and attempted genocide. But more importantly, the council itself had changed. Jack's declaration of war had not led to the widespread conflict many had feared. Instead, it had forced a long overdue reckoning. Species that had been bullied into silence found their voice. Old alliances based on intimidation crumbled. New partnerships formed based on mutual respect. "You know," Jack said as he watched an Elysian medical ship dock alongside a human cruiser, "when I made that speech about war, this isn't what I expected would happen." "What did you expect?" Kilara asked. "Honestly, I expected to be thrown out of the council. I expected humanity to stand alone against the Draconians." Jack shook his head. "I didn't expect so many species to stand with us." "You underestimated how many have suffered under the old system," Kilara said. "You gave them the courage to speak up." Their conversation was interrupted by a priority message. Admiral Foster appeared on the large screen in the room. "Ambassador Mason," she said, "we've received distress calls from the Outer Rim. Some kind of unknown vessels have appeared. They don't match any known species." Jack felt a chill. "Hostile." "They've destroyed 2 outposts already," the Admiral confirmed. 1 Meridian and 1 Draconian. Kilara's blue skin paled. "The Outer Rim has been quiet for centuries." Jack thought quickly. "Inform the new Council Security Committee. Tell them we need a joint response immediately." After the Admiral signed off, Jack and Kilara looked at each other. Both knew what this meant. "It seems the galaxy has more challenges for us," Kilara said quietly. Jack nodded. "But this time, we faced them together." As they left the observation deck to attend the emergency meeting, Jack reflected on how much had changed. His call for war had ultimately led to a stronger peace. The human threat of force had reshaped galactic politics without firing a shot at the Draconians themselves. Sometimes, Jack thought, the willingness to fight was more powerful than the fight itself. It was a lesson humanity had learned long ago. Now the galaxy was learning it too. And if these new unknown ships truly were a threat, they wouldn't face a divided council. They would face a united galaxy. Jack smiled grimly. That might be his greatest legacy of all.